Yo estoy haciendo la historia de tu papá, porque es un ceibeño famoso. ¿Ok?
En el libro ese Centeno, ahí aparece él.
Oh, ni allí.
Sí, ahí está. Ahí dice parado, Márgaro, Guerrero, fulano, mengano, sultano y perengano. ¿Lo vio, Gito? Yo le dije, ¿verdad?
No, en los primeros creo que salimos.
Sí, en el segundo yo lo vi ahí a usted. En 1900, pero ya, digo, en el patio, en el 60, algo así.
Ese antes que te fuiste de aquí, Gito.
Sí, hombre.
Oh, okay.
Estábamos peleando por la discriminación del Garifunas.
Oh, sí, eso.
Fue cuando organizamos la Lincoln. Una sociedad que se hizo grande, no sé. Últimamente me disloqué.
¿Y todavía hay organizaciones así? Aquí, como en la defensa de...
Sí las hay, pero no como cuando nosotros empezamos.
Sí.
Ahora ya más políticamente. Vaya.
Y tal vez también no hay tanta necesidad.
Sí, ya estamos.
Sí.
Y ahora ya no hay mucha discriminación aquí.
Bueno, pero ahí está la, ¿cómo se llama? La ODECO,
pero son internacionales.
Internacionales, ONG.
Oh, sí, eso es
Es que éramos solo pulmón aquí.
¿Sí?
Y para meter el preso a un negrito era la hora más barata.
Ay.
A mí nunca me metieron preso porque... decía, no, pero este Centeno es el que escribe el libro.
Sí.
Ahí vas a leer la historia. Si quieres, pues hasta para matarlo ya. Hasta de mujer se tuvo que vestir para zafarse.
Y el otro, ¿cómo se llama? Laboriel.
Juan de Dios.
Juan de Dios.
Y Juan Carlos Colón.
Y ¿cómo se llama? El papá, un hermano de, un primo de Piniel, ¿cómo se llama? Apellido Moreira.
No, ese sí lo mataron.
¿Cómo se llama él?
No, solo por morir.
Sí, pero lo mataron, ¿verdad?
No, le hicieron una vaina ahí en Coyoles y la máquina le destrozó la mano.
Oh, ok.
Y va a morir a también. Ese fue uno de los primeros.
Y por supuesto que situaciones así solo se cambia con nueva generación. Y en los 70, la nueva generación estuvimos pasando por un estado que ya no era una cosa tan mal si el inglesito se casaba con la Garifuna, todavía estamos pasando por eso, pero todavía era un acto raro también, ¿tú sabes? It was like that, o si un Garifuna se enamora de una inglesita, eso era que la familia, la mamá, la papá no se enteran.
No, yo tuve un problema, mi primera esposa es una guió.
Ajá.
Cacho, la mamá de mis hijos es una guió y hubo aquí un problema cuando yo...
Sí.
Ese moreno,
Ay,
no sé qué, era bien marcado. Inclusive mis hijos sufrieron mucho esa situación porque cuando la familia de la mamá se enojaba con él, les decía morenos.
Pero yo no, sabiendo la historia, tú sabes, es un proceso que tú sabes que se va a cambiar con generaciones solamente.
Bueno, porque nos vamos, como el mundo va evolucionando, entonces las personas van más pensantes y las cosas las vamos haciendo diferentes y vamos dejando, sabemos que, ¿cómo le puedo decir? Que no hay diferencia, que todos somos iguales.
Iguales, sí.
Todos somos iguales. Entonces, antes bueno, en los Estados Unidos, los negros en el sur no tenían cómo eran maltratados y todo. Yo vi una película con Eddie Murphy y Mark, una que lo meten preso.
Oh, sí. Yeah.
Eso era malo.
Sí. Ajá.
¿Ese es su hijo? Puchica,
Más acá te sale fotos, ¿ese foto o disco?
El disco.
Oh, sí, solamente eso es el...
Pero ahí lo voy a comer, no tiene foto.
Pero allá, no, foto conmigo no.
No. Ajá. Well, I ain't going to be heading with some cutting home cricket yard at New Orleans in New York for Harry Bay play. Harry Bay,
Bueno, en el marco del aniversario de nuestra patria y el aniversario de la independencia de nuestra patria, estamos celebrándolo. Hoy a las 12 vamos a desarrollar una charla por el Radio Caribe, donde vamos a dar a conocer el proceso histórico del pueblo garífuna y la importancia de los negros en Honduras. Nosotros los negros tuvimos que ver con el proceso de la lucha del general Francisco Morazán, en la lucha que ellos llamaron en aquel tiempo el movimiento independentista, donde participó el primer cacique garífuna que se llamaba Gualumu, Juan Francisco Bulnes. Ese negro es el que nos ha dado prestigio, porque hemos participado en el desarrollo económico, político, cultural de este país. Nosotros en estos momentos en Honduras estamos jugando un papel importantísimo. Si Honduras se está desarrollando en estos momentos gracias a la contribución patriótica de nosotros los negros.
Muchas gracias. Y mucho gusto, señor Centeno.
Gracias.
Y Dios lo bendiga.
Gracias.
Nadie puede.
En Trujillos, buiti te veio, buiti binafi ni duhnyo Garinagu. Well, Sergio te nuguya, Sergio García. Tío Siriaca García, Yagta Giriga, Santa Fe, Duruyu, Nacerwana, Honduras. Well, mi nombre es Sergio García. Me crecí en Santa Fe y nací en Trujillo, Colón, Honduras. Pero yo quiero decirle una historia de dos hombres grandes, Garifunas, que vinieron adelante de nosotros para limpiar la calle de nuestro destino para un buen futuro. Hombres que pelearon por la causa garífuna. Pero yo voy a hablar más en inglés para que el mundo general me entienda más. My name is Sergio Garcia. I grew up in Santa Fe, Colón. I was born in Trujillo, in Honduras. Migrated to the state in the 1965. And I grew up in New York City. And live right now after 28 years in the military. Now I live in North Carolina. But I want to speak, taking advantage of the spirit of the Garifuna Heritage Month here in 2024. I want to talk about two Garifuna heroes, activists, the people or men that came before us. There have been many Garifuna activists, but we have to always look back and remember this guy, because we owe them our life. We owe them our status in the world. You know, it's because of Garifuna, because people are men and women that put their life, you know, who hold their life less than what the value of their race were. And that's what make you an activist. A person that value his cause more than his life. Because the system, the oppressive system that you normally was fighting for, they want to bring you down. They want to silence you. And they do it in many ways. And they do it, and most of the ultimate is to take your life. So you have to not value that life and value the cause. You know, the plight of your people is most important. I want to speak about two heroes that I had the honor and the privilege to have walk among them. As a matter of fact, they were family of mine in the Garifuna lineage. You know, the first one is Gito Guererro. Gito Guererro is now well known, very charismatic Garifuna that in the 60s walked the walk and fighting for the civil right of the Garifuna people in Honduras, in La Ceiba. And matter of fact, he even walked with the second guy that I'm going to talk about is Mr. Centeno Garcia. Gito Guerrero was my brother-in-law. He married to my sister, Leonor Garcia Guerrero. You know, they had 2 children together. You know, Gito, of course, passed away in 2010. But he was a charismatic young man, Garifuna guy, who was proud to be Garifuna. You know, he spent most of his time in New York City, you know, but before that, he was very active in Honduras and fighting for the rights of the Garifuna in Honduras. And then, of course, and we honor this guy. We cannot forget him. We always have to look back. We got to look back where we came from, who we are as a people. We should never forget, you know, to look back. And then the second person I want to talk about is Mr. Santos Centeno Garcia. This guy is this is a hero. This is a Honduran Garifuna hero. You know, Mr. Centeno took it upon himself to walk the walk, to basically, you know, take it, not only that he voices his opinion, told stories of Garifuna heroes back in the back. He wrote books. Mr. Centeno wrote a total of 9 books, you know, and he spoke, and one of the most important book that he wrote was about the black movement of Garifuna in Honduras in the 60s and the 70s, you know, and he always was in the forefront. You know, the Garifuna people, we were, since with the time that we departed from San Vicente. Remember now, the historian, the British picked the Garifuna people by race. You know, if you was the darkest Carib, black Carib, you was one of the one that was picked, you know, selected to be put on those notorious death pit boats to head down to Roatan. You know, if you was a Creole or a light-skinned Maroon, you was left in San Vicente. You know, so from the beginning, you know, the Garifuna people were discriminated upon, you know. But again, I want to say the Garifuna people fought the Spaniard, the French, and the English. And believe it or not, the English were the most brutal colonizers of the most. The Spanish gave us a little leniency, even though for centuries we had to fight them. But there was some sense in the Spaniard that basically protected the Garifuna, the black Carib, during their time and era in the 1500s. You know, but the Garifuna people were never enslaved. The lineage of the Garifuna people were never enslaved. It's a fact. We got historical data. You know, even when the Columbus arrived to the New World, he saw black Caribs in most of the island that he landed, and there are recorded, we have historical record of that. You know, so they always have been black in the upper and lower Antilles. You know, that's so I know more slaves came later, you know, but the blacks that resisted the colonized, the French and then the English were blacks that has been in those islands. The fierce defense that those that became Garifuna later against the French and the English was the only way that a group of people can defend themselves so military tactically like that against an empire. The French and the English is for them to have been there for a generation. You know, the Garifuna defended, you know, the island of San Vicente. This island of San Vicente was never basically totally colonized by any of the empires, the French or the British. Because why? Because the Garifuna was there. They respected the Garifuna. They made peace treaty with the Garifunas. You know, because the Garifunas were the fierce fighters. You know, the French, you know, matter of fact, the English stated one that I'd rather be fighting the French than fighting the Garifuna warriors. You know, they stated. You know, so that was the reason why they was selectively picked out of the island by the British and then moved out of the island, you know, for them to have peace. But anyway, we talk about so the Garifunas. We must be proud of our heritage. We must be proud of our lineage, our bloodline. Be proud. All this is for the next generation, that you never stop looking back. Remember who you are and be proud of being a Garifuna. I want to talk about the second person. I want to talk about is Mr. Centeno. Santos Centeno Garcia. We know that Mr. Centeno passed away in La Ceiba, Honduras, from prostate cancer, at the age of 87 in 2020. There was a from Malibu, California, by Sandy Stockler. He wrote, and that's what I'm going to read to you about Mr. Centeno. Mr. Centeno Garcia served as the president of the Black Fraternity Organization of Honduras, the AFRET. He worked for over 40 years and retired from the National University of Honduras in La Ceiba, Honduras. He was the author of 9 books, most of which focus on the experience of Garifuna and other indigenous people of Honduras. His first book was titled The History of Black Movement in Honduras. Christian J. Padilla Romero, a PhD student in Latin American history of Yale University, say of that book, "As I am aspired historian of Honduras, la historia del movimiento negro en Honduras, la historia del movimiento negro en Honduras fundamentally changed my outlook on Honduras history. The book is a must-read for everyone concerned with the deep history of the country, especially as related to the history of the Garifuna community and their social and political impact on the whole country. Narrated through the perspective of one of the Honduran's foremost Garifuna intellect, the book rendered a first-hand account, alongside oral historical passed down by generation, of promising and unfiltered history of Black and Garifuna political engagement during the country's most transformative period. Centeno Garcia is a national treasure, and his projects like this are historical journey that continue to profundize the history of Black and indigenous in Honduras. Mr. Centeno's last book, Making History in California, deal with the experience in Beverly Hills, Malibu, Mariana del Rey in Los Angeles, giving conference, speaking engagement, and interview about Garifuna people. Mr. Centeno was the first recipient of a Lifetime Achievement Award presented by Sandy Stockler on behalf of a Malibu Toastmaster. At a speaking engagement at the Garifuna Museum of Los Angeles, Mr. Centeno Garcia was presented with the Garifuna flag, a gift from the museum president, Ruben Reyes. Mr. Centeno Garcia stated, "I will keep this flag to the day I die." Mr. Centeno Garcia was interviewed by Duale Blanco, a Garifuna, and by Jerry Edlin, a radio journalist based in Southern California. Sandy Stockler, who along with her husband Ron, spoke with Mr. Centeno Garcia about the similarity between the Garifuna and the Jewish people, including having own maternal language, own faith, own tradition, and common transactional experience while being part of the diaspora. One of the interview, Mr. Stockler asked, "Are there any Garifuna millionaires?" Mr. Centeno described to the Stockler about the historical success of a Garifuna entrepreneur, despite of racism, from Celestino Garcia, a landowner who used to negotiate with Standard Fruit Company, to Jose Angel Mancina Sr., who envisioned the first Garifuna bank and export cassava from Honduras to the United States, making him in his enterprise ranked by the Central Bank of Honduras. One of Mr. Centeno Garcia's vision was for Garifuna community to achieve financial independence, intergenerational wealth similar to the Jewish family. He dedicated his last book to the great people of such the Stockler for their hospitality while he was visiting the United States for 2 years in 2018 in 2020. Mrs. Centeno Garcia, a lifelong marriage for 60 years were his beloved wife Maria Cote de Santos until he passed away until she passed away in April 2nd, 2018. He is survivor by 7 children, 27 grandchildren, and 37 great-great-grandchildren. We have to give honor to people like Mr. Centeno and Gito Guererro. You know, they walk the walk for us. You know, discrimination, especially as a black race, we have suffered discrimination for every venue, every direction, even for our own black people, black family. You know, in Honduras, you know, we had this a wave of Morons, or they call themselves Creoles. Those the one that came to Honduras in early 1900s seeking employment with the United Fruit Company. You know, we call them the Inglesito Guillos. They came from the slaveholding in Jamaica and for the other British colonizer islands. You know, they came. They did not consider themselves Garifuna, but so they in that thing just only because they spoke the English language and no other language, and they learned the Spanish. Now they think they were superior to the Garifuna, and we dealt with that. In the sense we're still dealing with that because some of them we still think that they're superior to the Garifuna. But one thing I never can understand that in growing up in the 60s, 70s, because I do have a lot of associate friends who I love, who are what we call Inglesito Gil, and I love them. You know, but why? You know, but it's just the human race that, you know, that you always want to find yourself superior to somebody else. But I always like to tell to myself, knowing the history of Garifuna, if you don't know it, read it, find it. The Garifunas people were never a slave to no colonizer, to the Spaniard, French, or the English. We were never slave. That's why Garifuna need to be proud of the lineage, of the heritage. You know, those other you came from a slaveholding. You know, either the French or the English or the Spaniard. Okay, but the Garifuna, the lineage that we have, the true Garifuna. You know, the one that left San Vicente to the island Roatan, and then to the Dangriga, Belize, and to the coast of Honduras, Nicaragua, or those the one, the transnational, they're all over the world right now, where we will never slave. You know, we call ourselves transnational, what a Garifuna, because we don't really have no land. Honduras, we claim Honduras, we've waved the flag, but historically Honduras has not been kind to the Garifuna. You know, and this is very historical because after the Garifuna arrived to Honduras, we took the side, we fought with the Spaniards, you know, against those who were trying to get independence in Honduras. You know, we chose the Spaniards because the Spaniards helped the Garifuna alone prior centuries. So the Garifuna were fighting against the Creoles, against those Honduran nationals, you know, for the who eventually they won the independence against the Spaniards. So that right there was a discrimination, you know, against the Garifuna. They accused us of treason. You know, a lot of Garifuna were punished, killed, assassinated because they were considered as treason. You know, matter of fact, there's a story in 1936 that there was about 27 Garifuna who were made to dig their own grave, you know, before they got assassinated and by the government. You know, that right there, matter of fact, forced a lot of departure of Garifuna, you know, from Honduras to the coast of Belize, Dangriga, Hopkins, place, and then goes to Guatemala in Nicaragua. But Garifuna's story is a rich story that we need to make sure that our new generation, know and be proud. And I'm calling upon the new generation, you know, as those who have come outside Honduras, who came to the United States, who are educated, those intellects, those college graduates who have become lawyers, who have become doctors, who have become, with high degrees, to look back, to go back, to give back to your people. You remember, your people back in Honduras are still not being given the total right and freedom. The government of Honduras is taking land for our ancestors, from our people in Honduras, without no boundary, without no restrictions. Honduras, Garifuna being in Honduras more, even before the independency of Honduras. We was there almost about 280 years, about 40 years before the independence of Honduras. But still, Honduras don't consider us as righteous citizens of this country. That needs to change. That needs to be forced upon the government of Honduras and the people of Honduras. Our punta music is taking the Garifuna to a high level. Honduras are very proud of the punta dancing. They dancing all generational, no matter what. They dancing punta. The music have their music had given Garifuna a worldwide recognition. So we have to take that. But we have to go beyond that. We have to go beyond that punta dancing, and tell them that the Garifuna here, and we are here to stay. We're still here. We are proud to be Garifuna. In our generation, the next generation that live in New York, Los Angeles, right there in New Orleans, us in England, in London, in Spain, they all need to be proud to be Garifuna. Ni duhen buiti te veyu, ni da te bwingi yuhama, Sergio te nuguya higa. Okay, what do we have?
Garifuna numa amunyega Kaba funasa aruma hanuma o amunyega Kaba funasa adegraha wa o amunyega Chulu halita lula reida ho Chulu halita lula rufuda ho Nasa anyega wa bote he amunyega Gaba funasa ayanu ha garifuna numa amunyega Gaba funasa aruma hanuma o amunyega Gaba funasa adugra hawa o amunyega Again da guatinha wayunago Luha bagarito que garinago Wagia mesa afeiridire Wagabure matega wame Isanigo, were uluma, were muha. GARIFUNA'S Anyoga wapote amunyego GARIFUNA'S ayanu ha garifuna numa amunyego GARIFUNA'S aruma hanuma o amunyego GARIFUNA'S adugra hawawu o amunyego Julu halidan lula reida ho Julu halidan lula rufu da ho Julu halidan lula reida ho Fedi wanyali e Kumu kubaye 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 Fedi wanyali e Ferdi wanyali e Kumu kubaye 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 Ferdi wanyali e
No diba me Africa, no diba ariga warige, no diba me Africa, no diba ariga warige, ita jame na bulida ye me Africa, ita jame na bulida ye me Africa. Oh, Africa, hey, Africa, Hagucha Garinagu, hey, Africa, oh, Africa, Hajuna Buritio. Garinagu, pliga male, hagucha. Hiengere buritinho, pliga male, hayuna. Hey, agi ao, mapulei tunu pae, Africa. Hey, agi ao, mapulei tunu pae, Africa. Hey Africa, oh Africa, Hakucha Garinagu, hey Africa, oh Africa, Hayuna Bulitinho. Hitayame, Napoli Daye, me Africa. Hitayame, Napoli Daye, me Africa, oh Africa, hey Africa. Garinagu in Africa, oh Africa, Hayuna Bulitinho, Kaba Ariaganu, I Kaba Ariaganu, I Mama Africa now, hey Africa, oh Africa, Hakucha Garinagu, he and Garinagu, Pliga Male. oh Africa, hakucha Garinagu, hey Africa, oh Africa, hayuna buritinho, hey Africa, oh Africa, hakucha Garinagu, hey Africa, oh Africa, hayuna buritinho. No deep in Africa, I know deep in Africa, I know Mandago. No deep in Africa, no deep in Africa, I know Aria Wadige. Hati Banyasa, Hino the Roma, I know Mandago. Don't deep in Mama, he ludi Bayao, I ludi Banugu Chile. No deep in Africa, no deep in Africa, I know Aria Wadige. Africa, Africa, oh, Africa, he Africa need to work, Africa, Africa, Africa need to work, Africa, Africa, no deep Africa, I know deep Africa, Africa, no deep Africa, need to, I never, oi, joy. No deep Africa, need to be, hey mama, I need to be, mama, I need you, oh mama, I know deep Africa, 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 mama, I need to be, I know deep Africa, oh Africa, how could you Garinagu, hey Africa, oh Africa. Ayuna buritinho, kaba ariaganu, ay kaba ariaganu, ay mama Africa now, hoi Africa, oh Africa, hakucha Garinagu, hey Africa, oh Africa, ayuna buritinho, oh Africa, oh Africa, hakucha Garinagu, hey Africa, oh Africa. Ayuna buritinho, kaba ariaganu, ay kaba ariaganu, ay mama Africa now, hey Africa, oh Africa, hakucha Garinagu.